Photosynthesis is one of the fundamental chemical reactions that needs to occur on Earth in order for life to continue. So, chemical energy is what photosynthesis makes. Life runs on chemical energy. Without it, we would not exist. So where does this chemical energy come from? So us as humans, we get our chemical energy from the food we eat. And all of the food we eat, at one point, all of that energy came from photosynthesis. So glucose is the universal food for life. And this is what plants make during photosynthesis. So glucose is a sugar, and it has a chemical formula of C6H12O6. So that means that there's 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms, and 6 oxygen atoms bonded together. Glucose stores chemical energy in a concentrated but stable form. So that means concentrated means that there's a lot of energy in a small package. And glucose gets carried by your blood. And if you have diabetes, this is what gets tested all the time is your blood glucose levels. They want to know how much sugar is in your blood. So photosynthesis is the process that takes carbon dioxide, and we're going to start to abbreviate carbon dioxide as CO2, and we use it to make glucose. And remember, glucose is C6H12O6. And so in order to do this process needs to start with carbon dioxide, and we need some water, and then lastly we need some light. And all of these will combine to produce glucose and oxygen, which we're going to abbreviate as O2. So we put this into a chemical formula, and so we can see the 3 things we need: carbon dioxide, water, and light. This arrow means makes. So we make glucose and oxygen. So a couple things to note is that we've got these numbers out front, and that just tells us how many molecules of that compound we need. So we need 6 molecules of carbon dioxide and 6 molecules of water, and that makes 1 molecule of glucose. So notice we don't write the 1. It's kind of like in math class. If you have 1x, you just write it as x. And then we need 6 molecules of oxygen. So this link will take you to a song to kind of help you remember your products and your reactants for photosynthesis. So what types of organisms actually can do photosynthesis? And these would be called autotrophs, which literally means self-feeders. This includes plants, plant-like protists, which you might know better as algae, and then some bacteria. Heterotrophs, on the other hand, are organisms that consume autotrophs, which means other feeders. So here in the image, we have your plants. The green pond scum is really algae. And in the last picture, we have some bacteria for you. Photosynthesis takes place inside the plant organelle called chloroplast. And chloroplasts contain a special pigment called chlorophyll. And this is only found in cells that are able to do photosynthesis. And chlorophyll is a green colored pigment that's located inside the chloroplast. That's why we see green when we look at a leaf. So let's look at chloroplasts in a little more detail. First thing to notice is that chloroplasts are surrounded by two membranes. We have this outer membrane and then this inner membrane. Then we have on the inside of that inner membrane, we have thylakoids. Thylakoids are each of these little discs. Okay, and they're flattened discs. Sometimes they're referred to as sacs. And they're located in that inner membrane, and they actually contain the chlorophyll. And the thylakoids get stacked up on one another. Then we have the stroma. The stroma is the fluid that surrounds the thylakoids. That would be this light greenish yellow color, stroma. And this is a very watery filled fluid. So how do the chloroplasts actually get the materials for photosynthesis? So chloroplasts are usually found in the leaves, or the majority of chloroplasts are found in the cells within leaves. So all the materials for photosynthesis must get to the leaves somehow. So the shape of the leaf allows them to absorb sunlight, so that would be your first thing that we need. Then the roots take water from the soil up to the leaf, and then the stem is kind of that in between that takes the water from the roots up to the leaves. Carbon dioxide then enters the leaves through tiny openings that we call stomata. And so if you look at this image right here, this is on the back side of a leaf, and it's under a microscope, and you can see these oval shapes, and then you can kind of see how there's a little opening in there. Those are the stomata. So here's one stomata, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And up here, this picture shows you that they can open, or like this guy, they can be closed. If they are opened, carbon dioxide can enter and oxygen can exit. So this is kind of like a door that allows things into and out of a leaf. So now photosynthesis. There are two stages to photosynthesis. The first stage is called the light reactions, and this takes place in the thylakoids. So in our image over here, we have our first stage, the light reactions on top, and down here we have our second stage. So the process of the light reactions is first, energy from the sunlight is absorbed. So notice how we have the sunlight going into the leaves. And so this gets absorbed by the chlorophyll. Then the energy is going to be temporarily transferred to two molecules. And we've talked about how ATP is an energy molecule. So that energy gets transferred to here. And our second energy molecule is called NADPH. And so this is another energy molecule. And so we show that right here. Then step 3 is we have water. Water goes in, and then oxygen. Water goes in, and oxygen is produced. So here we have the oxygen leaving. So oxygen exits the plant through the stomata. And oxygen is what we call the waste product, because the plant doesn't actually use that oxygen. It's a good waste product for us because we use that oxygen. Step 2 is referred to as the Calvin cycle for the scientists who discovered it. And this takes place in the stroma, that fluid around the thylakoids. And so remember, we're down here on the second half. And this process is powered by the ATP and the NADPH that was formed during the light reactions. So these molecules right here provide the power to the Calvin cycle. The part of the Calvin cycle is we get glucose. So notice the sugar, this is really standing for glucose. The out arrow says it's going out, and it's produced from the carbon dioxide that goes into it. So the end products of photosynthesis is glucose, which is stored as a carbohydrate for food for plants, and then oxygen. This is considered that waste product and is released into the atmosphere through the stomata. And this is what keeps us animals alive. So without photosynthesis, animals would not be able to exist on Earth.